gather the shields. The Lord has raised up the spirit of the kings of the Medes, for his plan is against Babylon to destroy it, because it is the vengeance of the Lord, the vengeance for his temple. And of course, there's so many other scriptures as well where God prophesies, that he's going to raise up certain nations to go against maybe another nation and destroy it. And that's why God can prophesy this, because he's going to be doing this anyway. He's going to be controlling. A bit like, for example, how with Moses and Pharaoh, and how God had the ability to harden Pharaoh's heart. Things like that. That God is still able to control situations. So it can seem like as if everything's completely out amongst it, but God's in control of everything anyway. That's the main point that we need to focus on our minds. So anyway, yep. Okay. So what we're going to read here now is that we're just going to read these 4 kingdoms, and it says here. So Babylon, Medo-Persia, because the Medes and Persia they eventually joined up with each other, and we've got the Greece kingdom, and we've got the divided Roman Empire. So anyway, in Daniel 7, verse 17, it says, "These great beasts, which are 4 kings, which shall arise out of the earth." So there's our interpretation now of what these beasts represent. So 4 kings, and of course we know kings control kingdoms, so it's 4 kingdoms as well. Oh, there we go. So anyway, what we're going to do is that we're going to look at the destruction of Babylon here, which is represented here as the winged lion. And it says here in Daniel 7 verse 4, which reads this, it says, "The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. I watched till its wings were plucked off, and it was lifted up from the earth and made to stand on 2 feet like a man, and a man's heart was given to it." So this is believed by a lot of experts that this has to be to do with the destruction of Babylon by the Medo-Persians when they had joined up together. So the next one here is that we're going to be making sense of the language here of the very far left one is Medo-Persia with the bear with the ribs in its mouth, which devours much flesh, so we have that language. Then we've got the middle one with the leopard with the 4 heads and the 4 wings, which is Greece, and the language is basically saying that it was given dominion. And then of course the very last one is Rome, which breaks the earth in pieces kind of language. So we're going to try and make sense out of what's actually going on here concerning this. So basically, Medes devours much flesh. To understand probably why it's saying that, because even though we know that they ruled certain areas, you might be thinking, it seems almost like as if the main focus is mainly of that of war. So what we're going to read here in Isaiah chapter 13, verses 17 to 20, it says here, "Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, who will not regard silver, and as for gold, they will not delight in it." I find that very interesting. They don't seem to be too concerned about riches here. And then it says, "Also their bows will dash the young men to pieces, and they will have no pity on the fruit of the womb," which is the children. "Their eye will not spare children, and Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldeans' pride, will be as when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. It will never be inhabited." So it's almost like their main focus is almost like savages, that they can kill children as well and not care too much about riches and gain. It's like the main focus appears to be mainly on war. So it makes sense why the scriptures would focus on devour much flesh, to these 3 ribs that it's got in its mouth. And then of course, in order to understand given dominion, now when you look at the Greek kingdom and the Roman Empire, you'll find that they're pretty much ruling a really large portion of the earth. Like for example, in the a lot of the countries they worship. And they were controlling really large portions of the majority of the countries. It's like the Romans, obviously, they came after the Greeks, and they ended up controlling the same kind of countries that the Greeks were pretty much, controlling over as well. So they had a. I was always thinking to myself, why does it say dominion here, and then it says, but how come the Romans? How come it doesn't say dominion there too? Why is it that they seem to be mainly focused on war language for? I was kind of thinking of that, and I realized that after the Greeks had obviously done their conquest and had, when you compare them with the Romans, you find that they seem to have better dominion than the Romans did. The Romans appears to have, they had a lot of civil wars taking place during their reign, but the Greeks, whenever I looked in the Greeks, I could hardly find very much civil wars taking place. I couldn't really find it. The only time that civil wars took place was usually at the end when it was coming to, getting destroyed, basically. But when it comes to the Romans, they were partly broken, weren't they? Which is to do with civil wars taking place. So it was almost like they were trying to keep their kingdom or their empire alive, because they're trying to control these civil wars taking place. But the Greeks, they had it a lot better. And also the next thing I realized is that the Greeks, they stay as being a kingdom, but the Romans, they become an empire. So they drop down from kingship status and become an empire and becomes a public matter instead. So yeah, it makes sense why, so it's almost like the Romans weren't really having proper dominion in a sense, if you know what I mean. It's like that. So it's almost like their focus. The Greeks had great gain, but the Romans were struggling through their whole empire. As we can see historically. So anyway, we're going to be looking into the symbolic language of the three ribs in the mouth to try and make sense of what could these three ribs possibly be, And so what we found is that a lot of experts are realizing that the three ribs would have to be the three places that the Medo-Persians had taken over, had conquered. And these places are Lydia, Babylonia, and Egypt. So that's probably what these three ribs must be talking about here. And next in the Greek kingdom, a lot of the experts are convinced that the four heads and have to be the four generals of Alexander the Great, the King Alexander the Great of Greece. And the four wings would have to be the four locations because they divided his kingdom, you see, towards the four winds of heaven, which you can read about in Daniel 11 as well as in Daniel 8 as well. So the four wings would represent the four locations, and of course winds gets used for towards the four winds of heaven. I'm thinking wings making wind almost, it's almost like that kind of symbolic idea. I find it quite interesting how they would do that. But a lot of these experts were quite convinced that this would be likely to be what is going on here. And then, of course, lastly, we'll just look at the fourth kingdom. And, of course, we know that Rome becomes diverse from all kingdoms because it becomes an empire, it becomes a public matter. So we've looked at that anyway in the last talk. And next, what we're going to be focusing on is Rome's connections to the AntiChrist, this particular being, this man of sin that we've read about in 2 Thessalonians 2. Who eventually perceives himself as a type of God of some kind. So, what we're going to do is that we're going to be reading Daniel 7. Just keep that there. We're going to be reading about in Daniel 7 verse 7 to 8. We're going to read from that concerning. And it says here, After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible. This is wrong. Exceedingly strong. It had huge iron teeth. It was devouring, breaking in pieces, and trampling the residue with its feet. So there's our war language here. It was different from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. I was considering the horns, and there was another horn, a little one, coming up among them, before whom 3 of the first horns were plucked up out by the roots. And there in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking pompous words, or great words. Also in verse 21, we have to look into this as well so we understand the behavior of him. It says here, I was watching, and the same horn was making war against the saints, and prevailing against them. This eventually will be the Great Tribulation. And so basically what we're learning here is that this little horn has to represent the future Antichrist, who speaks great words and will war against the saints of God, the true church. Now what we're going to be looking into next is that we're going to be looking into Mary Bax's work of her experience when she was down in hell with Jesus. I studied her work for many years, and I'm pretty convinced that it's because of the details that she mentioned as well concerning the Antichrist. She mentioned a lot of details that back in the 80s she could never have known about, just because information is controlled and in the media as well as in education and things like that. That she was describing certain technologies that governments don't want anybody to know anything about, and until we eventually came across Nikola Tesla. So she explained a lot of his technologies, but she would never have known about that. So that's why I'm pretty convinced that her experience was genuine. And so anyway, Mary Bax's book, A Divine Revelation of Hell, and this is what she describes. This eventually leads to the horns that help us to understand what these horns are. And it says here, all around the heart, the earth was dry and brown. For about 30 feet in all directions, the earth had been burned and had dried to a rusty brown color. The heart was the blackest of blacks, but another color, like the scales of a snake's skin, was intermixed with the black. An awful odor arose from the heart each time it beat. It moved as a real heart and beat up and down. An evil force field surrounded it. In amazement, she says, I looked at this evil heart and wondered what its purpose, And Jesus said to her, these branches, which look like arteries of a heart, are pipelines that go up through the earth to spill out evil upon it. These are the horns that Daniel saw. These are the horns that Daniel saw here. And they represent evil kingdoms on the earth. So there we have it, evil kingdoms. Some have already been, some shall be, and some are now. Evil kingdoms will arise, and the Antichrist, which is the little horn, will rule over many peoples, places, and things. If possible, the very elect will be deceived by him. This is talking about Christians here. And it says, many will turn away and will worship the beast and his image. Right? Now when it comes to the beast here, then this would have to be another talk when we eventually get to Revelation, so people can understand what this situation of a beast and the Antichrist is. That thing is in the way. Got it. Yeah, because I need to. It does that sometimes. Anyway, it says here, out of these main branches or horns, smaller branches will grow. And out of the smaller branches will come demons, evil spirits, and all manner of evil forces. They will be released upon the earth and instructed by Satan, which is the pagan nations worship Satan as the god of this world, to do many evil works. These kingdoms and evil forces will obey the